thanks so much for doing this once again, boys, and happy Independence Day to all of you all and for everyone watching as well. A quick introduction. Bishan, of course, making a hat trick of podcasts. Great to see you as ever in the blue. And we're going to chat about Indian cricket. Pleasure as always, Bishan. Two debutants. We'll start with the one down south, Adarsh Rahman, an absolute legend in terms of knowing everything about the IPL, the CPL, all the T20 leagues, but he's a test purist, all right. And one of the sweetest journalist friends that I know, Saurabh Pandey from Patna, of course, but he's in Delhi right now, working his socks off his own YouTube channel. Get in, boys, with this conversation because we're going to talk about Indian cricket, celebrate some of the best moments. I've asked you all some of the questions in terms of the best matches, the players. So lots to pick your brains about. Let's start with one of the debutants. We'll start with Adarsh. And man, when we talk about India and being an Indian fan, because we take a look at the Barmy Army, for example, or the West Indian supporters in the Caribbean, every fan has its own flair, but the Indians are certainly the best of the lot. Because, I mean, pardon that cliche, but cricket is a religion in our country, right?
First of all, thank you so much for having me on. Happy Independence Day to you too as well. And getting back to your question, cricket is a religion in India. And I think it's a bigger religion that we've ever seen. And there are quite a few reasons for that. It's the one thing, according to me, that brings the entire nation together.
Correct.
You see a Sachin Tendulkar batting, you see a Virat Kohli batting, or you see an MS Dhoni. Especially, let's take the example of the last year's semi-final in the World Cup. 1.3 billion people were there, and everybody were just hoping that that one man on screen would win it for us. So that's what cricket is all about in India, and that's why people say that cricket is a religion. It brings everybody together.
Yeah, I mean,
I have nothing more to add on.
Bishan, I'm sure you echo those thoughts because you've been a vibrant traveller yourself. You went to the West Indies. You've, I'm sure, covered cricket in other parts of the world as well. What is it about the Indian fan, the experience we bring to the table?
I think the fact that the country stops to watch. I don't know if you've heard that comment from Obama that when Sachin Tendulkar is batting, he said, and he's called him out by name, for some reason his country's productivity drops by X% when Sachin is batting. Or the other story you hear of when a train stops in a railway station, the train actually stopped for 10 minutes longer than it should have stopped because Sachin was batting so that he can get to his 100 and then the passengers can move on. Those are things you will hear about only to do with Indian cricket. And there's clearly an element of madness associated with it, which is what makes it so much fun. It's not just a bunch of guys watching TV at the ground. There is an element of madness, and through which comes out through examples like this, and which is adds to the color and flavor of watching cricket, really. And different parts of the world, it's different because all the fans are different, and these are the eccentricities of Indian fans.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Saurabh, I think you can come in here as well. The fact that we will talk about the history of Indian cricket and how it's had its own twists and turns and ebbs and flows. And it's wonderful to kind of look back in time as well. But since you've been an Indian cricket fan, which is for donkey's years now, what has really kind of made you wear your heart in your sleeve sort of thing and be like absolutely gung-ho about the sport of cricket in general?
I think it's in my name, like Saurabh. So I think, in fact, my aunt once told me that they wanted me to play cricket. That's why, and they used to love Saurabh Ganguly.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the name comes from in fact, cricket. And I also think that there's an connect of emotion. As a fan, as a cricket fan, you connect to players. Like I belong from Jharkhand. So I have connect with Mahendra Singh Dhoni. I've seen him playing. I was in the same camp. So I've seen him, like, there's a connect. So when Mahendra Singh Dhoni retires, I think that day will be a very sad day for me. So same goes to you. You also have a connect. And in fact, all the cricket enthusiasts have connect with their teams, with their players. So this is how, I mean, cricket is not only a game, it's also an emotion. I mean, we become sometimes critique, but we are huge followers of cricket.
Yeah, absolutely. I think vital points mentioned. The fact that you draw inspiration from players. I think for Pandey it was MS. For many kids in the Mumbai Maidans, it'll obviously be Sachin and other inspirational Mumbai cricketers. Now for me, and probably for Bishan, it was Rahul in Bangalore in the sense, I mean, Virat Kohli now because he just draws so much great aura. But back in the day, I think Rahul Dravid was like a poster boy for me in terms of cricket. With some of the key fascinating talks that we're going to have. So I've asked the boys, let's just give a context to everyone watching this. I've asked all of them about a bunch of topics we're going to discuss today in terms of the best matches and players. All right. So we'll start with number one, and I'm starting with Test match cricket, our best ever Test win, and we'll start with home conditions first, boys. We'll start with Adarsh. What have you thought of? Because there's so many on home soil.
Yeah, there are so many to choose from, but I think I'm going to go for one of the oldest rivalries with respect to Indian cricket. India versus Australia 2001, the Kolkata Test match. Harbhajan Singh hat-trick. That win, I think, there's nothing that compares to that one.
Now,
In home
absolutely.
conditions.
Is that question a no-brainer for Indian fans? Is 99% or maybe 100% fans going to agree with Kolkata? Because I think I've got Kolkata as well. Vishen, what have you got with?
I've got Calcutta as well, and my number 2 test is the third test match of that series, really, which won us the series.
Yeah.
The Calcutta test gave us the draw, but we actually won the Chennai test, and which gave us the series win. So for me, the Chennai test is also close to my heart. Also, I'm from Chennai, so there is a closer emotional connect as well. So yeah, so my 1 and 2 are the second and third test of that series. And interestingly, I mean, it's of course now well known, Australia came to that series on a 15-match winning streak and thumped India in Bombay in that first test, where they won by 10 wickets, right? So after that, you're expecting almost nothing from that series. And to get 2 classic matches to win you a series and stop the Aussie juggernaut with exceptional performances like hat-tricks and double centuries, it's really, really exceptional. A 32 wicket series for Harbhajan Singh was really exceptional series, and you cannot forget it. I think you don't have to be an Indian fan to think of that series with fond memories, because VVS Lakshman played arguably the best test innings of all time. I mean, there are of course many innings which contend for that spot, but it's definitely right up there.
Right, absolutely. I think it was the start of an era, because that Ganguly era, which did so well home and away, and I think we really need to draw inspiration from that, because you talk to the likes of Steve Waugh and that absolute invincible Aussie team. Saurabh, I think you have the same Kolkata 2001 as well, because there've been some great performances. I mean, both these boys are from Chennai, and I know they've got to see some insane cricket in their own backyard. You take a look at that 387 chase against England, not too far long back, I think. Then you have that amazing defeat in many ways against Pakistan 99 with that Saqlain Mushtaq spell and Sachin getting injured as well. Have you gone for Kolkata as well? Can we all agree that's the best test innings played at home?
I think, yeah. I mean, yeah, Kolkata was definitely there. I knew that people will take the name of Kolkata Test. But I think one test match which really created impact in me, and I started giving respect to spinners, was the Anil Kumble taking 10 wickets in the innings against Pakistan. And if I'm not wrong, it was 1999.
Yeah, it was 99 Delhi. Vintage Delhi.
Yeah, so I think that is a huge accomplishment, man. Indian bowler taking 10 wickets. So for me, that will be the greatest of all time.
Well, that's insane. I think you've got a real absolute run for your money for the Kolkata one, because that is very symbolic. It'll be there in history, cricket textbooks for all eternity.
Yeah.
Let's quickly move on, because of course we have to keep this within 40 minutes, gentlemen. So we have the ODI wins next in terms of the best. Oh, sorry, we have to go to the away test wins. Let's finish that one first. And this one is a little head scratcher, but I'll start first here. I've gone for Adelaide 2003, purely because it kind of showed that we can play cricket away from the Indian shores. Vishen, you want to go first on this?
Sure. So the test I've picked is really not a classic test, but I've picked it for the significance it has in our history, which is Melbourne 2019.
Yeah.
Which is India beating Australia to win the series, which we had never won in our history. And so winning a test match series in Australia, I thought was a huge marker throughout. And cricket, of course, has an emotional connect with all of us. And throughout the 90s, growing up in 2000s, that's a team that we never got the better of on Aussie soil. And so to win there, sure, there was no Steve Smith, there was no Warner, but there was still a top quality bowling attack with Cummins, Stark, Hazelwood, Lyon. And that Melbourne test was really a complete team effort, because you had runs from Pujara, you had a century, you had 80s from Mayank and Virat, you had 6-wicket hauls from Jadeja and Bumrah. So really it was a complete performance. Yes, it was a featherbed. Melbourne these days is not really a great pitch for test cricket because of the featherbed. But the significance that test has for India in our history makes me pick that as the number 1 away test.
Okay, fair enough. We've both gone Australia, fair to say. Adarsh, you siding down under, or you thinking somewhere else in the world?
Nah, I'm also with you. I'm with Australia, but I'm not with the third test, but I'm with the first one, the first test match of that series in 2018 in Adelaide, because you go there, you're touring Australia, like you said, one of the most difficult places to win. And winning the first test match of the series, setting the tone for the series is something very important, especially for an away team, for a visiting team. And Virat Kohli, especially if you remember the first wicket of Aaron Finch, Ishant Sharma coming in, swinging the ball in, rattling all three stumps. And you just see the passion of Virat Kohli there. He meant business. And I haven't seen any other captain down under, especially, who has that kind of passion, especially, to set the tone for the entire series. The third match, like Bishan said, is very important because we won the series down under. We've never done that before. But setting up that series with that particular win, Cheteshwar Pujara, India were in a bad position. The batsman failed again. Virat Kohli was caught at gully by Usman Khawaja. They were not in a good position, and Cheteshwar Pujara grinded in, stuck in there, and scored a magnificent century. And Ishant Sharma, the way he bowled that first spell, the ball swinging all over the place, the aggression that the fast bowlers had, that makes it even more special, especially in conditions like Australia. So I have the first test match between India and Australia.
I mean, absolutely. I think I can't agree with you all more, but I will want to play devil's advocate here purely because maybe someone watching this might say, hey, you know what? If we had Smith and Warner in that particular Australian lineup, it wouldn't have been that victory. So does that make it all the more sweeter, or is it a bittersweet moment? We'll bring Saurabh in here. Are you agreeing with the lads, or are you agreeing more old school retro like me?
No, I also think that you have to respect the win. I mean, no matter what, beating Australia in Australia has always been the difficult part. And I remember you and I sitting at the studio and we were talking about the matches that were happening at that time. But to be honest, if I have to pick one, I'm an old school guy. So I think I'll pick India's first win in South Africa in Test matches in 2006.
Yeah.
That was a win which really I had huge amount of respect for the Indian side. Because South Africa at that time, you had Jack Callis, you have Graham Smith, you had Pollock, and then you also had A.B. de Villiers, who was doing comparatively better than our youngsters. So I think that win is very special.
Yeah, I think the fact that it brings back memories of Srishant, pinging Callis with a really snorter delivery. I think there was that was Srishant, and that kind of erupted as well.
Yeah.
And of course, certain performances stood out. We wouldn't deny that. But let's move on to the ODIs, because I think we've got maybe the Australian favour in this regard for the test away and the test home in many ways. So let's move on to the ODI scheme of things. The best Indian win at home in terms of ODIs. Let's start with Saurabh here. In terms of which do you think has been our best? I think it's probably 2011 Mumbai, right?
2011 Mumbai. I mean, I will be a traitor if I take any other name of any other game. I think that was the moment. I still can hear the commentators speaking that here is the last six and Mahendra Singh Dhoni has done it. So that was a very special moment for us, because after 1983, we were expecting, we had so many huge, good players, Rahul Dravid, Sachin Tendulkar, Saurav Ganguly, but we never won a World Cup. So I think that was much needed, especially Sachin Tendulkar's last World Cup. We have to give it back to him.
Yeah, sure. I think both the boys will agree with me on this, but because Adarsh is actually from Mumbai as well. So were you there that present day? How did it unfold?
No, I wasn't there. I was in Chennai.
Okay.
I wasn't able to be part of the finals there, but I have to agree with the both of you. That was probably the best win at home. More so because I remember Virat Kohli's lines in that after the win. He said that Sachin has been carrying the nation's burden for the last 24 years. It's high time we carry it on our shoulders. And that resonates with me even today, because that was a win that India needed so badly. MS Dhoni hadn't performed in the entire World Cup. A captain coming on to the biggest of stages in world cricket and winning the game for us, winning the World Cup for us after 28 years. It doesn't get better. Sri Lanka finished the innings on a high. Tisara Pereira smashed a huge six of Zahir Khan, the last ball of the first innings. And, they had everything going for them. But and India obviously had a very bad start, losing Sachin and Sehwag so early. Virat Kohli and Gautam Gambhir had to stitch on a partnership. But MS Dhoni, the way he batted, the way he won it for us, I think that has to be the best home win for India in terms of ODIs.
Yeah, absolute value for money. That Bishan, I'm sure you can't go against the boys in this one.
I definitely picked the 2011 World Cup final as the Indian moment of my life, but I didn't pick that as my favorite match as such, because it wasn't a great match. I mean, because it's the World Cup, it's very significant to us, and the moment we'll always remember. But for the quality of match and significance, I picked the India-Pakistan '96 World Cup quarterfinal. Also because it's an India-Pakistan game, and we've played Pakistan in almost every single World Cup, but none of the matches have been classics. They've all been largely one-sided games.
Yeah.
And the only India-Pakistan World Cup match which is a classic is the 1996 quarterfinal, which had a lot of subplots. And someone, again, growing up in the 90s, the Venkatesh Prasad, the Amir Sohail moment is unforgettable. That's from that quarterfinal match. Ajay Jadeja's thrashing of Bakar Yunus in the death overs, again unforgettable. It's from that match. And that's a game where India scored 287 batting first, which in those days was a huge score batting first. But Pakistan, in their reply, had about 115 for 1 in 15 overs. That's 7 runs an over. Incredible in those days.
And they capitulated.
But they still managed to lose. I got great joy from watching Javed Miandad score 38 runs from 60 odd balls after the 6th that he hit a score at the last ball to win the game and all that. So that match close to my heart, and India-Pakistan match, and the only real India-Pakistan World Cup classic.
I'm sure you will have definite people siding you in this argument, but because it's the World Cup leverage, people might be tilting with Adarsh and Saurabh here. I personally think there were a couple of other subplots. The fact that Miandad retired in that one, which absolutely delighted Indian fans, because that was his last match, and that was my first game in a stadium as a child. So plenty of things to celebrate about as well. Let's move on to the best away win in terms of ODI cricket. And this one was a little tricky, but I'll let Saurabh start.
I think, again, as we were talking about World Cup wins, I think 1983 World Cup final. Because, see, I do accept that it might be not the best, like as we spoke about it, 2011 World Cup final, it might be not the classic, or it might be not one of the best matches India has played, but we have to fathom the fact that it gives hope to others, especially players who are young and who really want to play cricket. So after 1983, a whole lot of players started playing cricket in India. I was reading an article and it said that the contribution of 1983 World Cup final was huge in the Indian market. Kids started playing cricket. They wanted to play professional cricket. So I think, for me, that one is very special. That's the time I think people really appreciated that win, because nobody expected India to win in that World Cup.
No, absolutely. Key points there. The fact that it was almost a demise of hockey and a rise of cricket in many ways. Television started trickling into India as well. So it went really well with the whole aura of the tournament. Those memories that we can never forget, even though we're not an 80s sort of era, I would still resonate with sort of many fans there, with Kapil Dev lifting the Prudential Trophy, was it, Dilip? Yeah. And I generally think that in many ways that was an amazing win. But is it a no-brainer, this one, guys? Because we look at the Lord's 2002 win, for example, and that also crops up as well. Adarsh, you're nodding your head, so I'll let you take this one. Which one have you gone with?
I was in a little bit of pickle, but I first wanted to go with the 1983 myself, but I decided I wasn't there to see the game. I had no idea what was going on there. So I can't comment on if that was the best ever away win. But I was a little torn between two particular games, the 2002 final and the 2013 Champions Trophy final. That was a very important win for us as well. But I have to side with the 2002 NatWest win because, like I said, it was like the 2011 World Cup. It means more that we win on foreign soil. It showed the entire world that India can win away. It's not a home country. It can win away. It can perform very well. And the way Yuvraj Singh and Mohammad kept batting, that just brings a lot of memories back. You know, you were at the edge of your seats every second. And even though we were all kids, but we still were there. We knew what was going on. We wanted to see India win. And Saurabh Ganguly taking off his t-shirt at the end of the game was something that can't be erased till the end of our days. And I think I will pick the 2002 NatWest ODI final. Yeah.
I mean, great shouts there. I think 2002 is an absolute winner for me. Maybe 1983, people agree with Saurabh. And the fact that there are others that we're missing out, like he touched upon the 2013 Champions Trophy, that became almost a 2020 sort of face-off. And what about the 2007 Commonwealth Games? Vishan, what is your take? Because it's almost an assortment of great wins.
So my ODI game really is a 97 game. It's Desert Storm.
Okay.
Sachin's 200s in Sharjah, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's significant that also in the 90s, at a time when India as a country is not what it is today, economically and otherwise. And something that really gave us a lot of joy was cricket. It's something that we were really good at. I mean, compared to how the country stood with the rest of the world otherwise. And Sachin's innings and India's wins there, I think, gave far more satisfaction from an emotional perspective than it does today. It had more meaning, those wins, I felt. And to have the world's best batsman was also something which, made you feel good about being an Indian in 1997. And to do it against Australia in 2 back-to-back matches, sure, we lost that first one, but we needed to score, get a run rate up by losing by a small margin, which we did. And then we went on to the final and beat Australia again. And Sachin had 200s back-to-back in that series. And again, that's typical of the 90s to have tri-series and quadrilla for 4-team series with quadrangulars, which you don't have anymore. So that's a little bit of nostalgia which comes into my evaluation as well, because you don't get to see those triangulars and quadrangulars anymore. And those were, of course, classic games. So
yeah,
that's my reason.
I agree with you. The fact that just the mere mention of Sharjah just brings back a gazillion memories for Indian cricket fans, and no one can look further than Sachin in that one. So, guys, I think it's hard to choose with this one, because one's gone 1983, one's to the. It's all different eras and all great wins, all significant, but we let the jury be the audience in this one, and we can swiftly move on to the T20 scheme of things. And this one is a little more with recent times and might be obvious ones as well. Let's start with the best away Indian sort of T20 win. I've gone with Joburg 2007 because that was just the moment, right? I think when it all unfolded. We'll start with Adarsh.
I have the T20 World Cup in South Africa in 2007, the game against Australia.
Okay.
Yuvraj Singh, I have the game against Australia. Yuvraj Singh, I remember Yuvraj Singh flicking one of Brett Lee behind deep square for 112 meters six. And I think that is when I got a sense of, satisfaction that, I am actually enjoying T20 cricket. T20 cricket is actually a very good thing because we were all new to it. And we didn't know what was going on. We didn't understand the format so well yet. But that was the game that that made me realize the fact that T20 cricket is fantastic. And the way India won that game, Srishant getting out, Matthew Hayden, and Gilchrist, it was just an overall beauty of a game. I love that game. And that game holds a very special place in my heart. It showed the way for
in many ways actually just encapsulates every single. I mean, you look at England, that particular 6-6 moment with Yuvraj, and then you look at that bowl out with Pakistan. Vishan, what have you gone with? We'll come to Saurabh because I know he's got a very interesting one.
Yeah, no, for me it was a no-brainer. It's a 2007 final.
Okay.
We didn't go into that series looking to win that tournament because all the seniors sat out. We didn't take T20 very seriously. We thought it was a bit of a joke going into that series. And I don't think there could have been a greater fillip for world cricket than for India to win the 2007 World Cup, because it meant the IPL came to be born, which gave the world of cricket a lot of money, gave many people lots of careers, and really made T20 cricket. So the world should be thankful India won that T20 World Cup in some ways. And it's special, no doubt, because you didn't know what to expect, what strategies were. It was the bowl out in the first game was a bit of a joke, right? You almost saw football score India winning a match by 3-0. It doesn't even make any sense when you hear it like that. So it was interesting. We didn't all understand it very well, but it's a World Cup win and immensely satisfying. For me, that's the number one T20 away game.
Sure. And then Saurabh, you?
Well, I was actually very confused which one to pick because for T20 these days, it's the prime game for all of us. But I would pick India versus England, where Yuvraj Singh hit 6 sixes in that match. And I think, if I'm not wrong, India were not the favorites. We had lost the 50-over World Cup just before that. So India were not the favorites. And then Yuvraj Singh coming out and hitting 6 sixes. So from that moment, from that match, India actually, even as fans, we actually accepted that India can win the match. They have the potential to win the match. And then rest is history. I mean,
Yeah.
we again started IPL, and then it also helped us to improve our game.
Okay, fair enough. I think it's a fair winner in this one because that tournament itself was just brilliant, like I said. Let's move on to the home wins. And even though we've not won a World Cup in T20s yet on home soil, I think the fact that you look at Mohali 2016 and that partnership between MSD and Virat Kohli to just win us the game in 2s and 3s and 4s. Wow, what a game that was. Bishan, you're nodding your head. Please tell me we got one right with you.
Yeah, that's the one I picked, Avanish. That's the game I picked, and so and for the reasons that you said, and if you see Virat and MS talking about in interviews, I think they pick that match very often as well for the joy of batting together, for
Yeah.
seeing them score at that required rate without hitting a whole lot of boundaries and sixes by getting there with 2s and 3s. And yeah, it was incredible to watch. It gave you hope of winning the tournament. Unfortunate that we didn't, but exceptional game. I think for the quality of cricket, for the unique way in which T20 was played in that game, and it showed you that you need to be really fit to play cricket as well, which sometimes you take for granted. And when you see guys like Anatonga and Inzamam having played the game, and then you think you can play this without being so fit, Virat and MS show you that's not always the case.
No, absolutely. Others, I think you can't look further than Mohali, can you?
I have a different one again. I have the 2016 World Cup again, but the game against Bangladesh, the MS Dhoni run out.
Yeah.
I think that game. I don't think I won't qualify. I won't take it as a game of quality because there was very mediocre cricket in that game. But the excitement that game got all of us into, the way India won that game, MS Dhoni and his captaincy. I think that was one of the biggest captaincy tactics that I've ever seen. He had Ravindra Jadeja that was taking catch. It was Shikhar Dhawan. I'm sorry, it's Shikhar Dhawan that was taking catch before, and he swapped in with Ravindra Jadeja. Shikhar Dhawan went to the other side of the boundary for the next batsman coming in. So if you guys noticed that game, it was complete MS Dhoni and his brain. I would choose that game as my best T20 win at home simply because of MS Dhoni and his captaincy.
I agree with you with a certain extent. The fact that Bangladesh fans are absolutely rallying us and, kind of giving us slack in the Indian team because they've just beaten us on their home turf in 2015 where that Mustafizur absolutely had a brilliant sort of time against us and they got some hope and they absolutely gave us a run for their money in that last over as well. I remember the fact that he could have simply nudged it for a 2 and really shut the whole of Chinnaswamy up. But you know what they say, he's absolutely messed it up. So let's speed on because we have the last 5 minutes to rush through 3 other things, maybe 4 if we can get time on it. I'm going to move on to the best Indian batsman ever, and this is going to be an hourly debate, but let's concise it in 3 minutes, and I'll go first. And we're talking about all formats here. We all have favorites. We all have Dravids, Sachins, Kohlis, you name it. The lot's going to be coming out. Maybe even a UV in there. I'm going to go with Virat Kohli. Sachin fans might be hating me for this, but I'm just saying he's an all-round player. But only time will tell, of course, if he overtakes the great man. Let me start with Bishan because I don't want to give him too much time.
My number 1 is Sehwag.
Okay.
I'm a huge Sachin fan, and Sachin is, I think, across formats, my number 1 cricket. I think that's your question, but I'm still going to pick Sehwag for the difference he made to Indian Test cricket from 2000 to 2010. That's a period when we really won a few tests abroad. We started beginning to think we can win abroad. And our problem always was we found ourselves at 20 for 3 far too often to make a big impact on an away test match. And Sehwag made sure he not only lost his wicket, but scored those runs really quickly and put us not only in defensive, but a really attacking position in away tests, being an opener. His numbers, you can look at it and say his away average is only 44, such an average is 54. But he opened the batting. He played the toughest conditions and solved a problem which Indian cricket had been facing for many, many years. And because of the different way in which he thought, the huge impact he had, Sehwag's my number 1.
No, absolutely. I think that's a great shout. The fact that Sehwag is just such an all-format player as well, and he was just so exciting to watch and just didn't give a damn whether it was McGrath, whether it was Brett Lee, whether it was Wasim Akram back in the day. Others for you, because we've had a great pantheon of batsmen. We produced the best batsman in world cricket, arguably. Where do you stand in this one?
I would have to go with Virat Kohli. I'm also a huge Sachin fan when it comes to batting, but Sachin hasn't played a lot of T20 cricket except for the IPL. Yeah. So I wouldn't at the international level, Sachin hasn't played T20 cricket, so I wouldn't
Yeah, because
consider
if
Sachin.
it was just an ODI test thingy, I think we would have probably chosen Sachin or maybe Sehwag, considering Sehwag also had a great impact in those games that he played. Saurabh, I think you're going to be a Sachin boy, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. Because see, it's not his fault that he couldn't play international T20 international matches. But why I'll take Sachin's name? Because bro, he has played against Megra. I mean, end of the game.
Yeah.
End of the game, he's played against Megra, Wasim Akram, Waqar Younis. There were so many
Four
good bowlers.
generations actually.
In fact,
he's played against probably he's played against Linga to McGrath and a Murli to a Shah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he's played against a plethora of bowlers and he's done that with grace and style. Do you think he's probably the best batsman in the world if you're saying the best batsman for India?
That I really have to consider the fact that there were better batsmen also. Because if you see how Sunil Gavaskar was there, if you go by numbers, then definitely Sachin is higher than everyone. But Sunil Gavaskar was playing without helmet and he was playing fastest bowlers, Dennis Lilly and then players from West Indies. So
I think the fact that if any veterans watching this, and it implies to all of us, we're missing great names like Tiger Patowdy and G.R. Vishwanath, who we've just read books of and seen old recordings of, but we really aren't the best personnel to judge them. At least we've seen these standard cricketers to at least have a say as a fan. Guys, we have 2 minutes left. Best bowlers, and I just want probably 20 seconds and the name of the player. We'll start with others.
I will have to go with Zaheer Khan.
Okay, I agree with that.
I'm not going to look past behind Zaheer Khan.
He's absolutely brilliant. Zaheer Khan, because he had such an impact in terms of all formats again. You want to shout out that as well, Bishan, or do you want to give me someone completely different?
I'm going with Kumble.
Okay.
Because of the impact he's had across all three formats.
Okay.
Right? Even in T20 cricket, his work for RCB and the 5-wicket haul, etc. I mean, he's played World Cups, been good across. I'm picking Kumble.
Okay, super. And Pandey, we have 20 seconds to wrap, so hurry up.
Zaheer Khan, because it's comparatively easier for a spinner to bowl on Indian soil. So I think I'll pick Zaheer Khan because he has proved his worth.
No, absolutely. I think the fact that Zaheer Khan could be a magician in terms of swinging the ball both ways, reverse swing as well, and he's done it across conditions. But we were going to pick the moment of Indian cricket. We don't have time for that. We'll let you guys pick it back home and tell us in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. And thanks so much for joining, lads. The two debutants out there. Big shout out to you guys, as well as Bishan as ever. And if you guys want to catch more of this, follow this page as much as you can. Thanks for watching. See you guys later.